When you see through the narcissist's boring facade, prepare for a shock. Have you ever noticed that narcissists, despite all their drama and chaos, can actually be pretty boring? Stick with me, because today we're flipping the script on the typical narrative about narcissists being magnetic and captivating. Sure, they thrive on creating chaos and attention, but here's something we don't talk about enough: just how dull and empty they can truly be. For all their theatrics, dealing with a narcissist regularly can feel like you're stuck in a never-ending loop of the same shallow patterns. It's repetitive, it's empty, and honestly, it can be mind-numbingly boring. In this video, we're pulling back the curtain to reveal the truth behind the facade. Let's get into why narcissists are far less interesting than they'd like you to believe. At first glance, narcissists can come off as really charming. They're full of stories, jokes, and interesting ideas, and they can hold your attention. But after a while, you realize it's all just the same material over and over again. It's like they have a mental script they pull from, and once they've gone through it all, there's nothing else left. Hearing the same things repeatedly can get old fast, especially with a narcissist. Since a lot of what they say is just stuff they've memorized or copied, there's not much room for any real, meaningful conversation. If you try to dig deeper or ask questions, they often get defensive, taking it as a challenge to their knowledge or authority. Narcissists don't usually handle questions well. They might avoid answering, give vague responses, or act like you're attacking them. If you can't ask questions or explore topics further, the conversation just hits a wall. Narcissists see genuine interest or curiosity as a threat, so discussions not only stop progressing, but they can also spiral into arguments or frustration. The reality is, the only thing that might seem interesting about narcissists is their emotional chaos. But even that gets old after a while. Watching someone repeatedly blow up in dramatic ways, whether in love bombing or other extreme reactions, loses its appeal quickly. When people start to realize that all those big emotional displays have nothing to do with them and are just self-serving gestures from the narcissist, the whole act feels empty. Some narcissists appear mysterious and intriguing at first because they're hard to figure out. They don't have a solid sense of self, so what they present to others is often just a performance. People might get curious and try to solve them, hoping there's something deeper. But the truth is, there's no big secret or deeper meaning. What you see is what you get, and act with no substance behind it. Another reason narcissists might seem appealing is their extreme emotional unavailability. This can trigger people's unresolved issues around not feeling seen or heard. When someone is emotionally distant, it can make others try harder to get their attention, hoping to be noticed and valued. This pattern often stems from childhood, where someone might have felt ignored by a caregiver. In adulthood, that same dynamic can push people to try and win over the emotionally distant narcissist, believing that if they succeed, the narcissist will finally open up and share their feelings. This is a fantasy, often tied to the belief that if you work hard enough, you'll eventually get a big reward. But with narcissists, there's no hidden treasure or emotional depth waiting to be unlocked. What you've seen from them is all there is: a shallow act covering up emotional immaturity. At their core, narcissists are like emotional toddlers pretending to be grown-ups, and they're not even very good at it. There's nothing exciting or mysterious going on here at all. A lot of people struggle to accept that this is really all there is to a narcissist. They convince themselves there has to be more and waste years trying to uncover something deeper. But the truth is, what you see is all there is, and it's basically nothing. That's why narcissists end up being so boring. After you've seen their main act a few times, there's really nothing left to discover. They don't have much to talk about, they lack curiosity, and they're not great at conversations with others. In fact, they barely have any interest in anyone besides themselves. It's always the same thing: complaints, sob stories, bragging, or shallow conversations, and every single one is centered on the narcissist. People in relationships with narcissists often find themselves bored out of their minds. It might sound like a small issue compared to all the emotional abuse and manipulation these individuals cause, but when you add that boredom to the gaslighting and other forms of mistreatment, it becomes even more damaging. People need connection, stimulation, and genuine interaction. But when you're dealing with a narcissist, these things are incredibly hard to find, especially as time goes on. After the initial excitement of love bombing fades, many narcissists lose interest in connecting with the people around them. Instead, they focus on their devices, play solo games, or just physically distance themselves from everyone. This lack of engagement is especially harmful to young children of narcissists who need their parents' attention, and to spouses or partners who may have already been isolated by the narcissist and don't have anyone else for meaningful interaction. When people try to connect with a narcissist, it's often met with hostility or frustration. Basic interactions seem to stress them out, and they view any attempt to spend time with them as a nuisance. Even simple requests for their time are seen as an invasion, leading to nasty responses and shaming. After being shut down so many times, people stop trying to engage. Some also distance themselves from others because of the shame the narcissist makes them feel. This leaves many stuck with the narcissist as their only source of interaction, which is never truly fulfilling. Talking to a narcissist feels like talking to a character on TV. No matter what you say, they just keep reciting their lines, completely ignoring you. It's the most frustrating and boring experience. Even if a narcissist does decide to interact, it's often very shallow and one-sided, and can turn sour quickly. There's never any real trust because their behavior is so unpredictable. You can't even trust that the person you're talking to will act the same way from one moment to the next. That lack of consistency ruins any chance of enjoying the interaction. Most of the time, conversations with a narcissist either end in a heated argument or you're completely ignored, especially as the relationship drags on. You could easily spend several hours with a narcissist, say for hours, and if you don't break the silence, it's highly possible not a single word will be spoken. Even when you're together, engaging in activities, there's barely any interaction, unless you're having a disagreement. But even arguing can become a rare occurrence, leaving people feeling totally invisible, as if they don't even exist in the narcissist world. Some believe this happens because narcissists stop putting an effort once they've got you locked into the relationship. And while there's some truth to that, the real reason is different. They simply don't have much to give. They're incredibly limited in what they can offer. For those who've been in the relationship for a while, the excitement and charm are long gone. They've already experienced all the flashy distractions the narcissist had to offer. The captivating allure that once drew them in is over. Imagine being pulled into a restaurant by the delicious smell of steak. You take a seat, place your order, and expect to enjoy the meal you've been promised. But here's the twist. You'll never actually get the steak. It doesn't exist. The scent and the sizzle were just illusions to lure you in. When people start asking for an actual, meaningful relationship with the narcissist, that's when things crumble. They can't deliver on what they promised because it was never real. So, they either keep stringing you along with vague promises that the steak is coming eventually, or they lash out, making you feel bad for even asking. Either way, you're left with nothing because it was always a facade. People often trick themselves into thinking there must be a steak because they remember hearing its sizzle, smelling its aroma, and they believe that means the narcissist can provide it. They're just holding back. This is where people start fantasizing that the narcissist is hiding some deep emotional treasure that they just need to be coaxed into sharing. But this is a misunderstanding. Just because something seems real doesn't mean it is. It's like chasing a mirage in the desert. No matter how far you walk, you'll never reach the water because it's not actually there. The illusion is heightened by your own desire. You believe in the steak mostly because you're hungry for it, not because there's any real proof. Narcissists, in their own way, are somewhat aware that they don't have much to give to others. They may not fully grasp how limited they are, but they do understand that genuine relationships aren't something they can manage, and they don't really want them anyway. True intimacy frightens them. The idea of having to give something in return for receiving makes them angry. It triggers a deep-seated entitlement, likely because they know, on some level, that they don't have anything meaningful to offer. If relationships require equal exchange, narcissists would be left out of the equation from the start, and this frustrates them. They feel as though it's unjust that they're expected to contribute anything at all. However, they still rely on others to meet their needs. This is where the whole sizzle and smell metaphor comes into play. They need people to stay close for a while, and the promise of that non-existent stake is how they do it. Narcissists will rarely admit that there is no stake, even though they know deep down. Instead, they lead you on, saying it'll be ready soon, right after you finish this task, wait for that moment, or jump through this next hoop. Or they'll shame and belittle you for wanting it in the first place, all while claiming they were definitely going to deliver. But in reality, they never will, and they'll never come clean and just say, there is no stake. They keep up the act, pretending the stake is just out of reach. Maybe for someone else, maybe for later. It's the same tired routine, repeated over and over. This routine gets tiresome pretty quickly, which is why it loses its effect on people who are no longer new to dealing with a narcissist. Narcissists sense this to some degree. They notice when their tactics stop working. That's why they give up trying. They never had anything real to offer you in the first place. And now you've figured out that their promises are empty. So why would they bother making an effort when you already know there's nothing at the end? If you're dealing with a dull narcissist who suddenly turns into the life of the party, or becomes incredibly kind and helpful around others, take a step back and see what's really happening. You've already been through all of this before. You know the stories. You experienced their version of kindness, and you're aware of the strings that come attached to their help. You already understand what they're capable of giving, and it's not much at all. The people they're trying to impress now don't realize this yet, but you do. Don't let it get to you. It's not worth the frustration. In the end, the story always plays out the same way. The show eventually ends, and this one-dimensional clown is left standing alone, waiting for the next opportunity to put on the same old act. The same tired routine, the same paint, and the same sad performance repeat every single time. Don't take it personally that they've stopped performing for you. It's not about you. It just means they've run out of tricks, and instead of adapting, they ignore it. Let it be proof of their inability to genuinely connect with anyone on a real level. That's what it boils down to. At their core, narcissists are all flash, no substance. If you found yourself in a situation where this person has become your primary or only source of social interaction, it's a big problem. You need to change things fast. People don't thrive in environments like this. It can cause intense stress and even harm. This kind of constant boredom is suffocating, and it can be dangerous. Look for activities that actually interest you. Reach out to people, even if it's just for casual conversation. Try small talk. Join an online group. Find a therapist or reconnect with friends and family. Do whatever you can to widen your world. Because if you let this person be your whole world, you'll find yourself completely alone. Their world doesn't really include you. I hope this helped clarify a few things. As always, I'm looking forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please feel free to share.